Today, my trusty 6-inch joiner gets a humongous upgrade. It is time to ditch those annoying straight knives and install this helical cutter head from Find Buy Tool. I'm going to show you exactly how to install a cutter head in a joiner of this style. This is going to apply to a ton of different models. It's really easy to do, and this is really affordable as well. I'm Jeff, you're watching Home Built Workshop. Make sure you stick around. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to this episode of Home Built Workshop. I hope all of you are doing awesome. This is my trusty jointer. This is a Ridgid model. I bought this one in particular secondhand quite a few years ago, but I believe you can still get this exact one. This is model number JP06101. Like I said, they still make it. It's been a really good machine, a 6-inch jointer, and I'm pretty sure that this exact model is just about identical, if not absolutely identical, to dozens and dozens of other models on the market. From my understanding, this, along with many others from Grizzly, Shop Fox, all different kinds, are all made in the same factory. At least that's what I understand. They just paint them different colors, put different stickers on there, all that sort of thing. They're pretty much all the same. Whenever you see me in a video using a jointer, it is in fact this exact one. And really, it's been a really good jointer. It works really well, except for one thing. If I had to pick one downside to this machine, it would be the fact that it comes with straight knives. Now, straight knives have been in use for decades, maybe even centuries. I'm not really sure on that, but decades for sure, and they've worked great for lots and lots of years. But the problem with them is, especially on this machine, they're super hard to set. There's little adjustment screws, jack screws that you have to adjust, and if you don't have everything set correctly, you're going to get a lousy cut, some chattering, all kinds of inaccuracies, and that's exactly what I experience on this. If I don't have these set exactly perfect, the cut quality is just not that good. Recently, I ran this jointer over a nail, unfortunately. So one of these blades has a really nasty divot in there, and if I don't have the fence set exactly right when I'm using it, I get a nasty divot. Again, the opposite of the one in the blade gets translated to my workpiece. And that's a pain, because then I got to spend time cleaning it up. I've decided now, since I need to change these blades, we're not going back to straight blades. And that's why I was super excited when the sponsor of today's video, Find Buy Tool, reached out to me about trying out their Helical Cutterhead conversion kit. Let's head on over to the other side of the shop where the lighting is just a little bit better. Take a look at the kit that we're going to be installing and upgrading my trusty jointer. What we have here to install on my jointer is a helical cutter head sent over to me by my friends at Find Buy Tool. There's lots of different manufacturers, or several anyway, that sell upgrade kits. Find Buy Tool also sells their upgrade kit, and when they reached out to me about trying some of their products, I saw that they had this kit for the jointer. Seemed like a perfect fit. I am so excited to install this. Everything is packed really well. We've got cutter heads, we've got screws, we even have Allen wrenches, which I'm guessing are for installing the cutter heads. We're going to find out. Super cool that the tools are included. Bits are included, screws are included, everything is there, and it's all packed really well. Ooh, that is heavy. It's all packed nice in this foam. Really a nice package. So let's unwrap this thing. I'm gonna do it right on this foam because I don't want to nick anything. I'll just unwrap this guy here. It is really wrapped up well. Ooh, nice and oily too. Just to protect it from rust. There we go. So this does not come with the cutter heads already installed. We're gonna have to do that, which is not a big deal. Also has the bearings already installed, which is good. That means we don't have to mess with trying to remove bearings from our other one. Super cool. You can see that it's a helical head. Everything's at an angle. We're going to mount all the individual cutter heads on here. Very cool. One thing that I don't see in the box are any sort of instructions. That's okay. I'm not worried about it. This head is really pretty simple to install. We don't need no stinking instructions. I'm going to show you exactly how to do it. But first, we got to install the blades onto our cutter head. The blades that we're going to use are these included carbide insert knives, which is really cool. Carbide blades, way better than normal steel blades. They're all in there nice and neat. We're just going to dump one of these out, I guess. And these are kind of cool because each of the points is numbered. I guess maybe that's so you can keep track of everything. Ooh, they feel really sharp too. We're going to put all of these in the same way. That way, we can keep track of the position they're in when we rotate them. Really cool that the tools are included. Other kits may be the same. There is a little detent that you have to make sure that blade drops in. That keeps everything registered correctly. If you're not paying attention, you can just kind of set it down there and it'll sit in a weird spot. So I'm just getting the screw kind of started, lightly snugged down, and then I'll make sure that the cutter head is down in that little detent. So we've got one row on there. Really, it's not bad. Seems a little bit tedious. It's really not. It goes pretty quick. We have 4 rows of cutters as opposed to the 3 blades that are on my jointer right now. So, at least the way I see it, you're sort of adding an extra blade. I don't know. Can't hurt, right? While I'm installing all these carbide cutters, let's talk for a minute about a few reasons why I think you need to upgrade your jointer or planer to a helical head cutter head. Number one, and one that I'm really looking forward to, is reduced noise. Straight knives on this jointer, and well, probably every other jointer, are so annoyingly loud. Helical head cutter heads are a lot quieter just by the way they operate. They're not moving a giant knife around at once. It's lots of smaller knives, so the noise is a lot quieter, and that's a big one for me. Another reason to upgrade is that helical heads perform much better in tough grained woods, figured woods, that sort of thing. If you try to joint figured woods with straight knives, a lot of times you're going to get nasty tear out. And by using a helical head, again, kind of like the noise issue, it's one little cut at a time as opposed to one giant swipe of a big knife, so they work a lot better in figured woods. And working on things like guitars and stuff, you're bound to have figured wood that you're going to need to joint, so a helical head makes sense to upgrade. A third reason to upgrade to a helical head would be reduced maintenance. Currently, if you damage a blade, or maybe you hit a nail, you have to change the entire set. I mean, I guess you could probably change that one blade, but that seems kind of silly because then you have one sharp blade and one used blade. So you have to change the whole thing, ideally. With a helical head, if you damage a cutter, you just turn it 90 degrees to expose a fresh edge on the blade. So your maintenance is dramatically reduced. You end up having to make a, 30-second repair as opposed to spending several hours resetting everything and getting everything back up and running. This way, with a helical head, you just rotate the cutter, bam, you're back off to the races. So those would be the 3 main reasons that I would suggest you consider switching your jointer and or planer over to a helical cutter head. I think I got all those blades back on there now, so let's pick back up where we left off with this conversion. That's the last one. Looks like we have a couple of extra blades, which is cool. So not only do we have 4 sides to each of these, but we have a couple spares as well. Really nice that some spares are included, as well as spare screws, because, well, let's face it, I'll probably lose some. So there's our new Helical Cutterhead from Find Buy Tool, all ready to install. Before we install it though, we have to uninstall the old Cutterhead. Back over here at the jointer, we're ready to start tearing this thing down, which actually is going to be pretty simple. First step, unplug your machine. Don't work on this thing with it plugged in. You can see that there's just no power to this. That way I know we're 100% safe. No one else is in the shop here with me, so no one's going to accidentally turn the thing on or anything like that. So don't worry, we're being completely safe. The teardown, really, it's pretty simple. Just a couple of hand tools. All you're going to need are really a 14mm wrench, set of Allen wrenches, screwdriver, potentially a small puller to pull the pulley off, which I'll show you here in a minute. First thing we want to do, remove our little pork chop safety guard here. If we pull this out a little bit, there's a screw right here that really just locks this thing in place. You want to remove that screw and don't lose it. From there, you can just pull this guard up out of the way. Now, this little knob here is spring-loaded, and that's what keeps the guard tight against the fence. So you can relieve a little bit of the pressure, and that'll just kind of unspring. When we reinstall this, of course, we're going to have to put the tension back on. But for now, that's all you need to do. Set that aside. Now we need to get the fence out of the way. We're going to loosen this knob completely. Make sure when you do, you don't lose the nut that's connected to the underside. And then the fence just comes right up out of the way. Did you guys know that my shop's really small and I don't really have a good spot to set this? Let me find a spot here. A minute ago I mentioned that you might need a puller. Here's the pulley that we're going to end up having to remove. But before we do that, we need to get this bracket right here out of the way. One thing I'm paying attention to right now is the fact that this bracket is just a little bit proud of the surface of the jointer. I'm going to do my best to try to get it back in the exact same position. Where this bracket sits is going to determine really how far off the surface of the machine the fence sits. So we may need to adjust this a little bit later on. There's one bolt right here. There's one bolt right here. We just need to loosen those up. You don't have to take them all the way out. This one's a little bit tricky because you kind of have to access it from the underside. We're going to have to do the old wrench for leverage trick. If you're not familiar with that, just use an open-end wrench and you can get some leverage. I can't get in there using the short end of the Allen key, so we're going to have to use the long side. If you have a metric set of sockets for your Allen wrenches, that would work good too. With both of these loosened up, we'll just slide our bracket out of the way. Now we need to remove this little safety cover that goes around the belt. It's just a little tin safety shield. This is easy as well. There's just a couple Phillips head screws on either side. We need to pull those out. Little safety cover. To loosen the brackets that hold the fence on, I used an 8mm Allen key for that. Now, we need to loosen up the set screw that holds the pulley in place. To do that, I'm using a 3mm Allen key. Now, while the 3mm key, at least the one that I'm using, fits pretty good, it's just a little bit loose. So I don't know if either my key is worn, the set screw is worn, or maybe there's a strange possibility that this might be imperial and these are metric. The 8mm fit really good here. The 3mm works here, but I don't know if that's quite right because a 4mm will not fit. So either something's worn or that's imperial. 3mm got it done though. And this pulley has 2 set screws, so don't forget to loosen the second set screw. If you only loosen one, then you'll be wondering why the pulley won't come off. So loosen 2 of them. One of them is located at the keyway slot, and then the other one is 90 degrees off of the keyway slot. So loosen both of those, and from there, we get to determine whether or not we're going to need a puller, or if we can get it off with a screwdriver. I'll start off with a screwdriver. Oh, look at that. And just pry gently, and that pulley comes right off. Now, if yours doesn't come off, you might need a 3-jaw puller to come in from the back side and pull that pulley off of there. Once you get it off, make sure not to lose the key. There's the key right there. We're going to need to reinstall that when we put everything back together. Now we're going to grab our 14mm wrench, and in these little recesses, there's one on the front as well as the back. There's a 14mm bolt. We need to remove both of those. One of them is not going to be able to come all the way out just yet because it's going to sit against the frame. We're going to start with the back one that most likely, when it comes loose, we're going to drop it down the dust chute. That's fine, we can get it later. It is tricky to get in there to get. Ooh, I didn't drop it. Haha, caught it. There's the bolt. That one's loose. However, like I said, you can't quite get it out of there. Now, our cutter head should be loose, and we can carefully remove it. There it is. Now we can take our old cutter head, and we need to swap a couple pieces from the old one onto the new one before we can reinstall it. If we take a look at the old one, boy, doesn't it look a lot clunkier than the new one? That new one looks really cool. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. These 2 bearing holders right here, this is where those 2 bolts we just removed fasten into place. It bolts these down, which holds everything in place. We need to remove these from the old bearings and put them on the new cutter head. We've got our trusty 3-jaw puller here. Hopefully this one is big enough. If you don't have one of these pullers already, a lot of times if you go to your local auto parts store, you can rent these pullers, most of the time for free. Sometimes you have to leave your ID or something. But they should have one there that you could use. There's one. There's a second one. Looking at these, you can't mix them up. The bearings are different sizes. The larger bearing is on the side with the shaft, which makes sense. Smaller bearing is the opposite side. Now we can install our cleaned up caps onto the new bearings. Hopefully, these just go back on. Yeah. Same with the other side. There's no particular way here that these need to go because the bearing's going to rotate. So just get it lined up. Now we're going to need to use something to drive this on, socket or something like that. There we go. The bearing blocks are all seated. We're ready to reinstall this. Now I've heard of people wrapping this with tape or covering them with some sort of material to protect the knives, and really I think that's a pretty good idea. But I think we can do this without worrying about that as long as we're super careful. So what we're going to do is very carefully hold it like this. This side is tricky. My fingers just don't move that way. There we go. You got to turn yourself into a pretzel. I want to very carefully and slowly spin this by hand just to make sure we don't have any clearance issues. We shouldn't at all, but I like to verify. Don't just try to spin it fast because the blades that are coming around could cut you. So just go nice and slow. Yeah, it's fine. Now we're going to get our belt, which has now dropped down to the bottom of the machine. Pull that back up. Make sure it's on the lower pulley. And we're going to reinstall this upper pulley. I'm going to put the keyway straight up. That way I know exactly how I need to align it. Now's the time to replace the belt. If yours is tore up or has any cracks or anything in there, this one looks perfectly fine. So I'm going to leave it alone. When you install this, you want to make sure that the pulley is exactly in line with the lower pulley, and you can just sight down the belt and you can tell if it's off center or not. You want it to run nice and straight. If not, it could throw the belt when it's running. And now we can just tighten up our set screws. And now we'll just install everything else in the reverse order that we removed it. The next piece is the little safety shield or the belt guard. Now we can put the fence bracket back into place. And I'm going to try to line this up just like it was so that the bracket is just tiny bit proud. You may or may not need to do this with yours. We can always adjust it if the fence hits the body of the joiner. We don't want it to scrape on there, and I believe that is what that adjustment is for. Now we can put the fence back in place. Got the little nut here that has a couple little tabs that ride in the slot. I don't feel anything binding as we move the fence in and out. So I think our alignment of this bracket is okay. Again, I just put it back the way it was. Seems fine. There's one last thing that I want to check before we test this out. I want to use a machinist square and very carefully make sure that our fence is still square to the rest of the machine since we've had it off. And that looks fine. I don't think I could get that any closer than what it is. And finally, we can reinstall the safety guard. Remember, we have to preload this knob down here. which winds that spring until the guard drops in place. And you can see right here, I don't have a whole lot of tension on that. So I want to give that spring another turn. That's much better. You want to have enough tension so that the guard closes as soon as your piece passes through it. There we go. One last thing I want to check, and I guess I should have done this before I put this guard on there. I want to lay a straight edge on the outfeed side of the jointer, and I want to just very carefully make sure that the edge of those blades, knives, cutters, whatever we want to call them, are not higher than the outfeed table, or lower really. I want it to be right in line. Sometimes if you put a little light behind there, you can tell a little bit better. And I think that's good for a test. It's definitely not above, and I can't see really if it's below. I think it's fine for a test cut. The reason this is important is because if the cutters are too high above the outfeed table, then you're going to get sort of a concave cut on the edge of your board, and if it's too low, it's not going to remove enough material, and when you pass your board through, the end of the board is basically going to crash into the outfeed table. It's not going to pass all the way through, so it needs to remove the right amount so that it's nice and straight, but not too much that it's higher than the outfeed table. And that's going to wrap up the actual conversion process for switching our jointer over to a helical cutter head. I guess now we need to fire this thing up and test the cut. I've got a piece of hard maple here, fresh from the lumber yard. This edge is nice and rough sawn. Let's see how this does. Oh wow. Immediately, the sound level, I have ear protection on, and it's so much quieter. Wow. Usually there's like a kind of a whirring sound. This absolutely does not have. Let's see how it cuts. Do a couple passes until it cuts all the way across. Oh, that's so much quieter. What do you think? One more for good measure? Wow. Wow. That is really nice. As we take a look at this finish quality, this is absolutely amazing. I have owned this machine for 5, 6, 7 years, something like that, and I've changed the knives, the straight knives, a handful of times. And since I have owned this machine, this is the absolute best quality cut I have ever gotten off of this. This is so much better than any finish I've gotten with straight knives. And the fact that it's so much quieter, that's like another bonus. It's so much nicer to use now. This is absolutely incredible. I don't know if you'll be able to tell this. I'll try to get a different angle here of maybe the edge. Maybe you can see it reflecting in the light. It is absolutely smooth. I would have no problem putting glue on this right now and gluing it together if I needed to do a glue up. It is absolutely incredible. I am impressed. So I want to give a huge shout out and a big thank you to the team over at Find Buy Tool. I feel like they really came through with this cutter head. It works awesome. It's a lot quieter. The finish quality is incredible. And did I mention that this kit's affordable? I've priced these out over the years, and I think this is the most affordable one that I personally have come across. I'm going to put links to their website down below in the description. You want to go check it out. They have cutter heads for not just this machine. They have them for planers, lots of different joiners, all kinds of them. Go check them out. I'll bet you they have one for your specific machine if you're looking for one as well. Again, I'm not getting paid to say anything about this. They just sent me this thing to try out. So full disclosure, my thoughts are my own honest opinions, and I really think this works well. I'll be interested to see over time how it holds up, how often I have to switch the knives. I've never used a spiral helical cutter head before, so I'm super excited and happy to try this one out. Thanks a lot for watching. I hope you found this informative. If you need to swap out the cutter head on your jointer, and if you're looking for an upgrade, go check out Find Buy Tool. Check out their assortment. They have a lot more than just cutter heads as well. And also, one last thanks to Find Buy Tool. Really appreciate it for giving me the opportunity to upgrade my jointer. Thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bam. Jointer. Huh. What do you think? You're upgraded. Way better. The only downside is I've got another set of straight knives. Right here, actually, because I was getting ready to change out that nicked one. We don't have to do that now. I guess these will just sit around.